It's been a couple weeks since I shot the 2024 NRL Hunter Ghost Hunter match in Paulden, Arizona at the Gunsite Academy facility. That was the first NRL Hunter of the 2024 season, and it's the first NRL Hunter match that I ever shot myself. And I will say that I did not do well at all. You can watch the match coverage in Rage Vlog episode 252. I'll put the link in the video description. And while I'm not embarrassed to say I didn't do well, and I'm at the bottom of the pack, I am disappointed that I didn't shoot better, but it is all a learning experience, and I wanted to just sort of do a run through on video of like the lessons learned and some of the things I observed and the things that I might adjust for in the next match that I'm going to shoot. I've got some notes here, and I will just say that the first things first is that the match is won on the glass. You pretty much win or lose the match because of your ability to get on your binos and find your targets, range them correctly, and then after that, engaging them is it is what it is, but you can't hit what you can't see, right? You can't shoot what you can't see. So it's very key to be able to get on your glass and find those targets. And that's why I said if you can't find targets and you're the best shooter in the world, then you've lost. So that's why you need to win the match by being good on your glass. And so the things that I observed is I was slow to get on my glass. If you watch the range vlog and some of the stage footage of when they start you on time, which you have 4 minutes for a solo shooter, it took anywhere from like 15 to 25 seconds to get to the firing point, and then maybe it took me another 20 seconds to get all my gear off of me.
Sighting stick is
20,
right
30 seconds to get my tripod out, the bag, and then the binos out of my harness and in the firing area. So I feel like I've noticed that my timer telling me 3 minutes left. I just got on glass, so I think that's probably the thing I need to work on is my time on glass. We need to speed it up. We'll figure it out, but we need to speed it up. Next is my scanning, and so just for people to understand, you're almost guaranteed to find one target because they put the first target of the stage, whether it's 1, 2, or 4, will be next to a placard, and they'll tell you the number of that placard. So just find the placard, and you'll find the target. Hopefully, it's supposed to be within the vicinity of that placard, but you should be able to find your first target. It's almost guaranteed. But after that, you have to scan and find, if you're shooting a 2 or a 4 target array, you need to find that second, third, and or fourth target, and that's where it can become a problem. Become problematic. It's steel. It's been shot up. They don't paint it. If they did, it got shot up, so the paint's gone. And depending on the terrain, you can't see outlines. They'll put it in front of a large foliage, like a tree or a bush, and you can't make it out. And so you've got to learn how to see distinct shapes, right? They'll tell you the target shape, right? Or whether it's a coyote, a square, a diamond, a heart, or a prairie dog. You've got to just be able to recognize shapes and depict them out. So that's the thing I've got to work on. And I'm not going to talk about equipment quite just yet, but I will just say that next thing is kind of time tracking, right? And so I did run this Amazon timer. It's countdown timer. You just hit it. I put 4 minutes, and after 1 minute, it tells you 3 minutes left. After 2 minutes, it tells 2 minins left. After 1 minute, it starts doing like a 10-second countdown. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a little hokey though. It's the buttons. You have to remember where they are. I need to put some kind of like tactile indicators on here so I can just feel for it, so I know which buttons to press. But sometimes you might hit the wrong button. You got to take it off, figure out, reset everything. So it works well, but functionally it needs to be better for this type of application. But anyway, time tracking is key, and so keeping your pace, that's one thing I kind of need to understand is that while I need to get on glass faster, you need to learn when to give up. So if let's take it's a 2 or 4 target array, you find your first target. Well, how long does it take you to find the other ones? And sometimes I went to the 1 minute left mark before I actually got on my rifle, and that's kind of bad. And everyone has kind of indicated to me at 2 minutes, you kind of just need to start shooting at 2 minutes and then at least get some points. So I think that's true. I might stretch it out to maybe like 15 seconds more depending on how the conditions are, but I think it's a valid point. It's like once you hit the 2-minute mark, if you've not found the second and or third and fourth targets, you need to just get on the gun and get some points. So that's kind of the thing I learned there. Frame of reference. What I mean by frame of reference is kind of the point of view. Where are you? Like when you look at the target, you're on the sighting stick, right? Because they tell you, hey, get on this sighting stick. The targets will be visible from that sighting stick and that's point. So yes, I found it. I'm kind of crouched down above the stick with my tripod and glassing. I found 1 and 2 targets, and I thought, okay, it's next to a bush, next to a tree, or whatever in the open. Fine. Then you get into the position down there, at the firing position. Then everything changes because your angles change, your height off the ground has changed. So your whole point of view has changed, and therefore your references may have changed as well. And so I need to figure out a more effective way to do target references, like, framing where it is in the firing area. Because a couple times I found the targets, great. Got in a position, I'm like, oh crap, where do they go? Are they visible? Yes, sir. Okay, there they are, right? And I thought it was next to a tree, but it was, but the way it was oriented from the tree has changed based on my point of view. And so that was something I just discovered right at the match. Kind of along those lines is prone versus not prone. A couple times you had to shoot off a tree, whatever, right? You have to shoot off a tree, but the rest of the time it's like just shoot within the blue flag, right? Within 2 feet of the blue flag. Fine. However, a lot of times I got on the glass, found the targets. I'm like, great, we're good. Let's get into a prone position. I'm like, oh, I can't see the targets. And you don't find out till you actually get behind the gun, sort of, right? And it's like, well, I need to find a better way to figure out, okay, can I shoot from prone before getting the prone? Because it sucks to reset. If you get down behind the gun and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to find the target. I'm like, oh crap, I can't see the target. Then you got to get up, grab your tripod if you want to shoot tripod, or just go triple pull or double pull or whatever you're going to do to get the legs higher and get your rifle higher off the ground. So that whole thing does slow you down, and I feel like maybe you should just shoot tripod all the time. However, I tried shooting tripod and I was wobbly, right? I needed rear support, and you go kind of blank, right? Your brain just stops functioning because you don't train enough. I did not use the triple pull as a triple pull on day 1. I really should have, but I didn't. On day 2, I did. I actually ran the triple pull tall off the ground, used my tripod as rear stabilization, and then I made some great hits. So I think there's a lot to be said about knowing what you're going to shoot. Like, can you shoot, like being able to tell, can you shoot prone or do you need to get off the ground? So that's something I need to work on, because it's kind of hard to tell. Like, again, frame of reference, point of view, you're shifting your point of view, your angles to the target. You're up here glassing, you're down here shooting, and you just can't tell. So I got to work on that. And one other item here is just marking brass. I totally forgot to mark my brass ahead of time, and I forgot my little tool to mark the brass. So I lost some brass. And I think also you need to accept the fact you're going to lose brass anyway. And I've used Alpha Munitions brass, and unfortunately I lost some brass because, one, some of it just goes out into Narnia and it's out somewhere when you eject it, right? You're not keeping track of it. 2, some people leave their brass. I think the first stage, people just left a ton of brass on. I'm like, oh crap, I'm not going to go look through all this. So I tried to scoop as much as I could, but you got to clear off the line so the next shooter can shoot. So accept the fact you're going to lose brass, but mark it ahead of time. Don't wait till you get to the location. But that's kind of it, like the main things that I wanted to talk about in terms of lessons learned. But let's talk about some of the gear issues, and not so gear issues, but the stuff I observed as far as what worked and what didn't work and what I'm going to do to change for the next match. I ran the Stone Glacier Approach 2800 pack in this configuration you see here, and it worked out great. I mean, I felt it was a good pack, didn't really struggle with it. The tripod harness is pretty good. However, I ran the tripod like this, and in all honesty, I don't know if I want to do something to optimize this. I started running it with just this clip loosened up, and it was just running this clip, so I was just one to loosen, or to get everything out, like the whole tripod out. And I think I started at least keeping 2 of the segments, the one that's kind of saddled in here, I kept those segments loose. So when I pulled it out, those legs started to fall, or at least they were able to just freely move or on their own in gravity. And I operated this too by hand, but we can speed this up. I'm going to get the TVC 22i compact. I do have a TVC 22i, which is the inverted, but it's really long, and it's probably twice as long as this. You know, in theory, I can run that, but I just don't want to run a bulky tripod like that, and that's why I didn't run it. But knowing what I know now, I feel like a single lock, 2-segment tripod will be better, and I'm going to run that. I'm going to get the compact, TVC 22i compact, and it should be a little smaller. I think it's 30 inches collapsed. We'll run that. However, with the tripod, I will say that the tripod did stick. It was sticking on the end of day 1 and all of day 2, because day 2 it rained. These tripod legs were not moving. Like I would loosen this one, and I could not, like I was trying to yank it and just putting force to finally just get it to go. And then trying to get it closed, I was literally hammering this thing into the ground to get it to close. When I got home from the trip, I ended up taking this all apart, the locks, the legs and the shims, and clean this all out. But I got it all smooth again. But that is concerning where that could seize up. As far as everything in the pack, I did mention I was going to carry 3 bags. I didn't. So I carried just 1 bag during the entire match, and that's the Game Changer Sticky. I did bring my Coltac, like kind of rear bag, but I left it in the vehicle. I didn't carry it during the match. So I left that in the vehicle. So we're sticking with 1, and we're going to stick with this, or I might just run my Schmedium, Get Light. This has got Get Light, my Schmedium's got Get Light, but I'm either going to run one of the 2. But I'm going to only run 1 bag, so 1 bag there. During the match, in my kind of range, my NRL Hunter gear breakdown that I published a couple months ago, I talked about how I was going to bring my Kilo 6K binos as my backup, because I ran the EL range TAs as my primary. Some people messaged me, hey, that's kind of overkill, you may not need to do that, and I thought about, okay, I'll just leave my vehicle. So what I ended up doing is I'm not even bringing it at all. I didn't bring my 6Ks. I brought my 8Ks, which I don't have with me today. I forgot to bring them out, but I did bring my 8K. It's a laser rangefinder, the Kilos. It's a monocular, but I did carry it in this little pouch here. And I kept it in this spotting scope pouch here on the Approach 2800 as my backup. So I didn't need them, but I kept them as backup in the event my rangefinder died on my EL range TAs. Backup bipod, I did use this. So my rifle's on the ground here, but my Sky Pod came apart on day 1. And I had to go through a repair on it. I did it like at the night of day 1 at the hotel. I had to figure out how to clean it up because it burred, so I couldn't reassemble everything. But I cleaned it up, got it reassembled, but it was still loose on day 2, and I got it to function for the rest of the match. However, when I got home from the trip, I figured out what the heck happened, and so now I know how to fix this thing correctly and how to make sure it's all tightened up. But that being said, I did use my backup bipod. I actually didn't have the T-back in my pack. I had my Atlas in my pack, and I had this in my hard case, which was in the vehicle. So I actually brought 3 tripods on accident because I put my Atlas in here, and I had this in my hard case. But in any case, I'm going to keep a spare bipod in my pack. I think that's worth doing. So I'm going to do that for sure going into any other future matches. As far as in the pack, not really much to really mention or changing here. We'll talk about this in a second. As far as mags, I said in my kit breakdown I'm going to carry 3 mags, an AICS by MDT, and then 2 AW mags. I kept this in the holster on my belt as my backup in the event that I malfunction on the stage, but I ran an AW as my primary. I'm going to ditch 1 mag. It's a little bit of weight to save, but I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to run 2 AW mags and then just put 1 in a holster as my backup during the stage and just run 1 normally as my primary. So we're going to drop 1 mag from what I did bring. So for future matches, we'll drop 1 mag. I did bring these spiked feet for the tripod, didn't use them. I'm debating whether I need spiked feet, but I did bring them and I'll keep them. The Coltac ammo notebook binder deal works great. It handles a ton of rounds. It's 16 by, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 by 16 rounds. That's enough to get you through 1 day for sure. And then you can trim it like by half for the second day. But this is really good. It's better than carrying a plastic box of ammo. and it kind of molds to the pack, sort of. As far as the admin pouches that I had in here, I did use the Fix-A-Sticks toolkit that I keep in my orange pack here. My batteries didn't need to use, but I did use a Fix-A-Stick toolkit because I needed to try to reassemble my bipod or my SkyPod at the hotel. So definitely worth keeping, and to tighten things up if they come loose on the stages. I didn't need my boo-boo kit, although I did cut my hand. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I'm gonna keep first aid. You're not gonna lose first aid. And then I did keep anti-fog in this white pouch, just some alcohol wipes, which I did use, and then this little towel to wipe stuff off, like my glasses, my face or whatnot, when it rained. So that worked for me as far as just having that admin pouch. I kept some protein bars in here, which I don't have any in here right now. And then the dope card holder on my arm board. So I did use my Kestrel, which I have on my bino harness here on this Marsupial Gear bino harness. I did use my Kestrel to create a hard dope card the morning of day one. So I did have it every 25 yards. I did that. So I never referenced it really. I did kind of in the first two stages compared my range on my dope on my EL range TA, like what the solver was telling me, compared to what was on my arm board, and they were matching up. So I'm like, okay, we're trusting the EL range TA at this point. And I just kind of getting that peace of mind. I did put my gun number, like I established a gun number for the day, and it was a 6, gun number of 6, right? So 6/10 for at 600 yards for 6 miles an hour? What was it? Yeah, 6/10 of a mil. In any case, I have that here, and then put that on there. I didn't really reference that. However, we'll get into this, what I'm gonna do with the arm board. So I ran the Coltac cheat sheet on my rifle. And so I use that for NRL 22. And if you don't know what the cheat sheet is, it's basically just this Velcro tab that you put on your scope, and then you can have these peel off vinyl cards with Velcro. And they're great, right? I kept one, I'm like reaching for my head, but I kept one on my hearing protection. And so I would just take that off, write down my dope, strap it to the gun, get in position and shoot. The failure in that is my habit of writing just the drop. So let's say I had arbitrarily saying, let's say I had a 335 yard target and a 615 yard target, and the drop was, I don't know, making this up, I don't even know what it was, 1.7 and 3.4, making it up. I'll write 1.7, 3.4, slap it on there, and I'm behind the gun, I'm gonna shoot. That's cool and all, but what I failed to do there is I didn't write down the distance. And so if I'm trying to use gun number, well, how am I going to use my gun number if I don't know what the distance is? So one, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to try to just write small, like 243. I think I can fit it all right here and just write distance in yards and then the drop in mils underneath or next to it. I don't know, I'm making this up here. If I can do that, it gets all messy there, but I can do that. It might work with a 1 or 2 target array, but a 4 target array might get kind of scrunched. So what I'm debating on doing, I'm likely going to try. I keep trying to live from my head here, but I'm probably going to go with the masking tape route. I saw a guy doing that where he had masking tape right down here and then just peel it off, you know, just bunch it up, throw it in his pack as trash, and then the next stage, new masking tape and right there with a pen. I can always use this wet erase on this vinyl here, but you know, it's messy trying to clean that all off during a state when you've got like 12, 14, 16 stages in a day. This eventually gets messy. So I like the painter's tape masking tape idea. I'm probably going to do that with a ballpoint pen to write down once I, see my glass, find targets, range, get the dope or the drop. I'll write down the distance and the drop, or the elevation adjustment, and I'll write that down on the tape, and I'll have a nice clean reference to work off of when I'm shooting. So I think I'll do that. But that's kind of the main thing as far as the gear to change. And then Ziploc baggie, I forgot to mention that. So I mentioned marking your brass, but it was nice that I packed a Ziploc baggie. One, to keep my ammo dry in the event water got in here, because I put the Coltac notebook in here. But I also used a Ziploc baggie to hold my empty. So I kept my empty brass in the spotting scope pouch of the Approach 2800. Just threw my brass in there when I was able to collect it, and I had that in my pack. And then at the end of day one, I just threw it in my vehicle, and I had another bag for day two. Not much else to, oh, let's talk about the bag. So I had oops, that's not good. No. There's a little glitch here, and we'll talk about why that just fell on me. But, so I had my schmedium first on my pack. I had it clipped to my pack. So basically, when I got to the stage, I would have to drop my pack, unclip my tripod, unclip my bag, get everything like my legs out on my tripod, lock it up, bag, and then pull my binos out. It takes a lot of time. So I started clipping it to my body. Get tripod off bag, set it up, tripod off body, clamp it on, get it on the tack table, glass out of bino harness, glass. That's fine. But I feel like we're still losing time. I feel like we're wasting a lot of time here. So I saw a lot of guys who have a bag permanently on their tack table. And I feel like that might be the way to go, like a flat bag. And I do have stuff I can use. So I'm probably gonna do that, and I'll just keep it permanently on the tack table, just like strapped on there. I feel like having the bag already on the tack table is good enough, or like is gonna be the ideal situation. Even better would be having your binos always on here. However, I don't like that idea. Running around with your binos, like your tripod on your pack and the bino strapped to it, stuff can happen. I prefer to have it here. That's just me, but we'll figure that out. Now, as far as the rifle's concerned, I think it did great. If I missed, it was because of me. The scope, surprisingly did well. It tracked everything. It handled the rain pretty well. I didn't have too many significant issues. I kept my caps on, my front cap on at least. I know a lot of guys like, hey, you left your caps on when I was at the start of the stage. And I'm like, well, I like to keep my caps on. When I get up there, I'll take it off, because you have your gun facing up in the air, and then water and dirt are just like falling into it. Dust just throws in there. So I like to have my cap on, my front cap on. As far as everything else here, again, everything ran well. No issues here, except these green zip ties. So if you see these green zip ties, they put these on here when you weigh in. So when you weigh in, I made open light, so they'll give you different colors. And so they're gonna mark your stock or chassis, your scope, and your bipod. They cut off the long end, right? Because the zip ties are really long when there's excess. They cut them off. Unfortunately, they didn't cut off very well, and so you're cutting your hands on these things quite often. The scope you can get away with. You can just kind of get that out of the way. Chassis, kind of. Now the bipod, I made a huge mistake, and I let them zip tie it here. So if you saw it earlier, my gun fell over, because what happened was, if you look here on the SkyPod, it's hitting that notch and it locks it down. So it kind of freely moves, and then once that goes, you pretty much got this free spinning leg here. So one, that was a bad idea. Two, they didn't clip this well on day one. I had someone take care of it on day two, but when I was operating this, I was cutting my hand. I cut my hand on this, like right here, and like right here. I cut my hand just trying to hold my bipod, and it's not really good. So just a tip for those of you who are going to go to an NRL Hunter, definitely get the zip tie down towards the leg or near the foot, and that should be out of the way, and you won't have to deal with getting cuts on your hand because of the zip ties. And if anything, probably want to bring some wire snips so you can snip that off like a little bit better than they do at the table when they weigh in, or if anything, just make sure they clip it correctly when you weigh in. So anyway, that's it for the rifle. I mean, not much to say here. I'm very happy with this gun. It shot, I think when we chronoed in at the range, 2685 was roughly what I had. I did have my Garmin with me on the chrono testing, or the chrono recording area. They did run magneto speeds because they're the sponsor. And if you watch my range vlog, I freaked out because when I was shooting in the zeroing range and they were recording the velocities, my impacts were 3 inches high at 12 o'clock. I'm like, oh crap, what happened to my gun? And I freaked out, and I said, hey, I gotta go check my zero after this, so can I shoot on the side? So let me do that. And I took the magneto speed off because I was gonna let the guy next guy use it. When I got to the other side and I shot, and I'm like, hey, my zero is right. I didn't have to make any adjustments. I had my tools out ready to readjust my scope. And I'm thinking, what the heck happened? And I think, oh crap, I forgot. The magneto speed changes your point of impact. I use the magneto speed so often off the barrel. I use it on a chassis mount, ARCA mount, that I totally didn't realize that that magneto speed shifted my point of impact. So a little scare there, but no issues with the gun. Everything ran great. Before I end the whole after action report, I will say that the marsupial gear vinyl harness, this is the second gen. I actually got this before the match. I'm running their first gen of the no mag pouch. This is the second gen, so there's slight modifications. It doesn't have those little bungee cords here. This thing is too tight. I was trying to break it in, stuffing it with like a bag and stuff in like a large bag, shooting bag, to get it to stretch out, but it is snug. And so it's very tight fit. It won't fit. I mean, it didn't fit when you collapse the bridge like this on the original one, but on this one, you definitely have to bring the bridge, the barrels far apart to drop it in there. It's because, you know, it has these large humps for the LRF electronics. I did handle the 10 by 32s at SHOT Show, and those are really nice. They're light and they're smaller, and they only have one of these humps on one of the barrels, and I'm sure it'll fit a lot better in this. And I'm not entirely sure if I want to get the 1032s. I was talking to guys at Swarovski at the booth, and they're like, yeah, you should probably get them because the low light performance is actually pretty good. You don't really lose much compared to the 10 by 42s. So now I'm really like, oh man, am I going to spend more money? And then I would probably have to sell these, but I don't want to. But yeah, the marsupial gear is kind of tight, and I wish they made it a little, maybe like a half inch or maybe at least a quarter inch taller, or, you know, so that it has more room. And I wish they used a slicker surface on the inside. Right now they're using some kind of like, it's a fabric surface, and it's pretty slick, but I wish they just used like a really slick vinyl or something, especially if it gets wet in here, so you can just turn it upside down, let the water just sheet out. I might write them about that, but that's my recommendation there. Sorry, I'm hitting my mic here. Having a lens pen is great. I use this multiple times during the match to clean my binos off. And pens, extra pens. I loaned somebody my pen that I used because he was using a Sharpie and it wasn't writing well in the rain, so I loaned him my ballpoint. This is a Write in the Rain ballpoint. But I highly recommend that for those of you who are shooting in a match and need to write stuff down. But anyway, that's it for the after action report. It's just a kind of a ad hoc video. I'm probably going to write an article kind of just verbally, or not verbally, but write in text. Basically, kind of my thoughts, get that on print, in print rather. Just so people can reference that rather than watching a video. I know a lot of people rather watch videos. I prefer to read, and I prefer to write rather in as well. So, but I'm going to write an article and I'll kind of tie these together, and hopefully it'll give people a good reference for NRL Hunter if you're interested in shooting NRL Hunter. And if you haven't seen my range vlog, episode 252, with coverage of the Ghost Hunter match in Paulden, and you've never seen NRL Hunter before, check it out. I mean, there should be some good information there. Philip Vallejo, he has some great videos at NRL Hunter, and I think he has the best stage footage of anybody out there. So definitely watch his videos, and I'll link to his channel so you can check those out if you're interested in NRL Hunter. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in my next videos.